This is the Patalinjaya of today, the one you've always known. But the city you know is about to be transformed. And not just transformed, but revolutionized. Who's leading this bold new journey into tomorrow? None other than Celcom. We're advancing Patalinjaya into a visionary era of seamless connectivity.
Something very exciting, which is going to change the way we live, the way we work. At Celcom, we are all about advancing our societies.
Our 5G journey will begin in Patalinjaya, but will soon be advancing the lives of all Malaysians nationwide. Indeed, the Celcom 5G revolution will redefine not just the ways we communicate, but the ways we keep our homes and loved ones safe, the ways we travel, the ways we shop, the ways we entertain ourselves, and even the ways we teach our future generations. This vision of the future is not unattainable. At Celcom, we're paving the way for it right now. Join us as we journey together into the exciting 5G world of tomorrow.
Good morning and hello everyone. Welcome to Cyberspace Defense and Security Fireside Chat, and thank you for joining us today. Our session today is brought to you by Platinum sponsor Salcom Axiata Berhad, co-sponsor Syntax Sendirian Berhad, and System Consultancy Services SCS Sendirian Berhad. Ladies and gentlemen, today's session will start with the keynote address by our guest speaker, followed by the fireside chat session day 1 by the experienced speakers to discuss the rise of ransomware in Southeast Asia, threats, effect, and countermeasures. The session will take about 1.5 hours and is expected to end by 12 noon. Before we proceed to the next agenda, we have a few housekeeping items to cover for today's program. If you have any questions, you may send it through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and the moderator will pick up from there. If we don't get to your question during the session, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. Should there be any internet disruption during the session, please be patient and sign in again. And finally, we'd like to encourage you to share today's session with your colleagues and your social networks. A gentle reminder, if you are having trouble hearing us, use the raise hand icon. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to proceed with our next agenda. And without further ado, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Sri Akril Sani bin Haji Abdullah Sani, the Inspector General of Police, Malaysia, to begin his keynote address.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I am honored and delighted to be part of this cybersecurity webinar, which is being organized in conjunction with the forthcoming Defence Service Asia DSA and National Security NatSec Asia 2022 event. This is a very timely event that addresses a critical issue we have long been facing, that is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity threat is very real and has rapidly become a widespread challenge faced by all countries. Ransomware has become the most popular types of malware which attacks computer security systems to get into confidential information from companies, governments, and even individuals. Ransomware attacks have been making headlines worldwide, and it is also on the rise in Southeast Asia as a form of digital hostage-taking. It is also one of the defense and security industry in Malaysia's main focus. Recently, a business entity was attacked by ransomware in which some data was obtained. This cyber attack targeted its regional divisions and impacted operations in countries within the Southeast Asia region. Based on investigations, the cyber criminals stole 3 terabytes of data after hacking the Asia operations. This is one of the many attacks that organization is facing, and it is always hard to predict when a ransomware attack will strike next. However, the challenge is always present with the ever-growing and rapid development of technology, making each threat more severe than before. Our best bet now is to equip ourselves with the latest knowledge as well as with best cybersecurity and defense systems in our effort to protect and prevent such attacks. In March this year, an Asia-based personal computer manufacturer was attacked by a ransomware with ransom set over $50 million. Recently in the US, a software firm took more than a week to restore its servers after being hit by ransomware which crippled hundreds of companies worldwide, ranging from supermarkets, pharmacies, gas stations, and even kindergartens. Such unprecedented attack affected about 1,500 businesses and demanding a ransom of $70 million. With such a big-scale cyber attacks happen, it poses a threat to national security and the country's economy. not only valuable information is compromised, but countries also stand to lose billions. It has been reported that global losses from cybercrimes are now over $1 trillion and is rising continuously. According to the Sophos Global Survey titled The State of Ransomware 2021, 58% say that ransomware is inevitable, and 59% of Malaysian firms are expected to be hit in the near future. The survey also showed that 41% are already experiencing an increase in attempted ransomware attacks. While it is tempting to pay the attacker to get back the information, this is not the case most of the time. There have been cases where data was stolen, only partially returned after payment is made. This is partly because when data is stolen or hacked, it is often quite difficult to be recovered, sometimes even impossible. I hope that more organizations take the time to study how ransomware attacks work to better equip and prepare themselves in case of an attack. It is also good to be aware of what to do if it happens. As we know, ransomware is often unpredictable and can strike at any time, and it's important to get the best protections available. Aside from having offline backups for all data in the organizations, it is also crucial to use layered protections to block attackers from all points possible. However, as I mentioned earlier, the technology evolution in the cyber domain is fast changing. Hence, events like the DSA and NetSec Asia provide a good platform to showcase and get the latest on anti-ransomware technology and source for the best protection tool, be it for the companies, government, or even individuals. According to International Telecommunications Union, which is a special agency set up by the United Nations, Malaysia is currently ranked 5th in the best position in terms of the cybersecurity based on the Data Global Cybersecurity Index 2020, which was published by Sina News on 3rd August 2021. Malaysian government recently announced the adaptations of Internet of Things, IoT, and the implementations of Industry Forward, National Policy on Industry 4.0. From a law enforcement perspective, we should be prepared for the road ahead in order to serve and protect the people of Malaysia. On that note, I would like to congratulate the organizers of this cybersecurity webinar, and I wish all participants an eye-opening and productive time over the next 2 days, as this will be a fruitful outcome that enable us to further strengthen the foundations of Malaysia's cyber security landscape. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Sri Akril Sani bin Haji Abdullah Sani for the meaningful speech. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite our moderator for today's webinar, Mr. Anwar Yusof. He is currently the Head of Industry Engagement and Collaboration in Cybersecurity Malaysia. Now, without further ado, I'll hand over the floor to Mr. Anwar. Mr. Anwar, over to you.
Thank you, Aisyah. Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi. Again, let's take this session and remind everybody that it is being recorded. Yeah, and if there are any questions, use the Zoom chat. I believe we have about 400 plus participants. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. But kalau tak jawab tu, jangan marah ya. InsyaAllah, we will definitely come back to you. And with that, Alhamdulillah, I'm happy. It gives me extremely great pleasure to introduce our panel of distinguished speakers. Alhamdulillah, world class, all of them. Yeah, and first and foremost will be the most handsome, the youngest among us all. Okay, Rear Admiral Datuk Shamsuddin bin Haji Ludin. He's been with the Royal Malaysian Navy since 1987 and was commissioned in 89. He has wow, a lot of experience in all the warships, mine hunters, fast attack craft missile, multi-purpose command and support ship and frigate. Rear Admiral Shamsuddin, Datuk Shamsuddin has a master's degree in management and defense studies from the University of Canberra. He has a graduate certificate in maritime studies from University of Wollongong, as well as a diploma in human resources from the Open University. This is interesting, okay? Admiral Datuk Sam was the pioneer team unit of RMN Recruit Training Center and probably among the last one to leave Woodlands, Singapore. And he's been a key player in the Royal Malaysian Navy fleet transformation, and he has transformed the Defense Communication and Electromagnetic Department to become the Defense Cyber and Electromagnetic Division. Okay, he is of course driving a lot of initiatives to strengthen the cyber and electromagnetic future capabilities, of course, within MINDEF as well as within the Malaysian. Currently, Dato' Sam is the Director General of Malaysian Armed Forces Cyber and Electromagnetic Division. Welcome, sir. And second, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my ex-boss, Associate Professor, Colonel, yeah, retired Colonel, Dato' Dr. Hussein Jazri. He is currently the Senior Vice President of Cybersecurity at Serba Dynamic Holdings Berhad, reporting to the Group CEO of Serba Dynamic. His tasks include basically to enhance and align cybersecurity business and to improve the security of Serba Dynamics, cybersecurity and privacy, compliance and posture. With a PhD from the National Defence University of Malaysia from 2015 to 2019. This is interesting. Yeah? His thesis is on Cybersecurity Wellness Index Evaluation Framework for Critical Organizations. Okay, Colonel Hussein or Professor Dr. Hussein, he also has a Masters of Science distinction in Information Security from Royal Holloway University, as well as an MBA from University Putra, Malaysia. This is something that I must share, okay? My ex-boss, he has the prestigious Harold F. Tipton Lifetime Achievement Award in 2010, okay? This is basically considered as the Nobel Prize of those who are in information security. And it is named after Harold F. Tipton, and he is known as the George Washington of information security. So the award is given annually to recognize those who have dedicated themselves to carrying out Mr. Tipton's tradition of passionately promoting and enhancing cybersecurity. And of course, another key award that I would like to mention was that Dr. Hussein was awarded the Chief Security Officer ASEAN Award in 2010. And this is the best Chief Security Officer in the ASEAN countries by IDG and the Ministry of Information and Communication Vietnam. Okay. Last but not least, okay, Mr. Katan McLaughlin, who is the CEO of Nihon Cyber Defense. He brings US and UK skilled government assets to the cyber arena in Japan and the Japanese institutions. Mr. Katan, he has been in Japan for the last 25 years, okay, and basically his strength lies in his ability to merge technology and financial sectors and being able to troubleshoot all aspects of banking and securities in relations to delivering solutions to the customers. And of course, this leads to his development of cybersecurity in money laundering and KYC, know your customer portfolios. And of course, he believes that the future of corporate governance lies in the combination of financial technology, regulatory, as well as cybersecurity. And he is an independent leader of fintech, cybersecurity in the areas of equities, derivatives, and more recently, cryptocurrency. Okay, gentlemen, with that introduction, if possible, let's talk a little bit about the 10-15 minutes keynote remarks by our IGP, Dato Sri Akril. Colonel Hussein, if I can start with you, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, our IGP mentioned that Malaysia is ranked number 5 in the ITU Global Cybersecurity Index. If you can share with us, sir, what does this mean to these ordinary people and of course to businesses like Server Dynamic and investors? What weight does this carry in this number 5 ranking in ITU, sir?
First of all, thank you, moderator, for introducing me. Such a nice words. I have not heard of that for many years from you, but it's an honor. And secondly, I think most importantly, thank you to the organizer for inviting me to be in this panelist and to wrap up the issue of what has been said by IGP, which is I think most of it hammering on the ransomware. Right. Coming back to your question is what does ranking means to Malaysia? Honestly, ranking means something, of course, to Malaysia. It means that being number 5, I think it speaks that the seeds and the foundations of cybersecurity in the country are sort of competitive enough to be recognized by other nations. So some fundamentals has been put in place. Of course, I was there seeding it when it was starting in the year of 2000. So I think ranking number 5 is not coming overnight, just like a dream. Ranking number 5 started 20 years ago to make us number 5. So the seeds has been planted, and as a result of the fundamentals that has been put in place in various sectors in the country, resulted into the ranking of number 5. But this does not mean that we have to be very complacent with it. It means nothing if we become complacent. Number 5 here means that we can do better. Because when we talk about in the context of ransomware to me is very near to my heart as well. I think could be Dato' Samsudin, a real admirer as well, because ransomware is actually an issue of reflections of a war. So if you're talking about ransomware in the context of defense, is you are defending yourselves against attacks. And the attacks comes from various fronts, left and right. If you're talking about how many fronts cybersecurity has, you just look into ISO 27001. You have how many controls there? More than 100. How many controls there? More than 114 controls. That is the front that you have to guard. 114 controls or 114 fronts that can bring you down. Yeah. So this is what ransomware is all about. It is a war and a defense against an enemy that is attacking you. So all those principles like the Sun Tzu, the art of war, everything there applies. But except this time, you are defending. Yeah. And you are waiting for the enemy to find out of that 114 fronts at least to get into you. Let me stop here first. I want to give the others the chance before we rattle.
Thank you, Dato'. Thank you, sir. I think to share just a little bit, if we look at the perspective of the ranking, the ITU ranking covers 5 pillars. The first pillar are the legal measures. Second, of course, the technical expertise that we have built over the years, the organizational measures, and number 4 are the capability and capacity development, the measures that we are taking to develop our people, and of course, number 5 are the international cooperation. And yes, all this has been put in place, and now we are just moving on from that. Okay. The second point, Captain, excuse me, Dato' Sam, yeah, let me just cover this a little bit first. Captain, you are the money man here, bro. Okay. Now, the losses, according to our Inspector General of Police, is more than USD $1 trillion. So what does this mean? I mean, try to put this in context. Are we fighting a losing battle? What's going to happen here? You are mute. Can we please?
Yeah, so many of the issues that we see in terms of the monetary side of things is of course, we can't say we're fighting a losing battle. Otherwise, we can't give up in this sense. But certainly, the fact that ransomware is now deployed as a service means that far, far more ransomware attacks can take place against organizations than any other forms of cyber attacks we've ever seen before. It increases the landscape or the landing zone for the criminal gangs to attack our infrastructure at many locations at the same time. And that deployment as a service is really down to the fact that some jurisdictions in the world, I wouldn't say actively promote, but allow cyber criminals to operate within their borders. And I won't name any country in particular, but I think we all know who they are. And of course, those countries can crack down on those groups. As we recently saw that Revel disappeared, one of the top variants of ransomware disappeared, and we can guess that that was probably pressure from the United States against one of those other jurisdictions globally. But yes, it is a huge revenue stream for the criminal elements in the world and the technical world we live in today, and it is growing all the time. As Inspector General Sani pointed out, Malaysian companies potentially could see 60% of them hit with ransomware, and I have no doubt that that could be the case. And of course, the ransom side of things is just a small component of the cost.
Right.
It's the operational costs that cause us the greatest pain. The infrastructure being down for even a day in some manufacturing companies can run into tens of millions, or it can, if it leads to it can actually bankrupt or bring down an entire company. So it's not a losing battle, but it's a very dangerous situation. And again, I'll refer to the initial speech by your Inspector General. It is a national security issue because it does affect the critical national infrastructure of Malaysia, and is a potential threat to the security and the economical sovereignty of Malaysia as a country as well. And I think that we continually look at the technical side of things and the preventative measures. But one thing that we should be really focusing on, because we're predicting this huge rise in Malaysia, is how do we handle it when it does happen, and how do we triage it when it happens to reduce the huge costs that a ransomware attack can have in an organization. And what we see, what we're seeing continually now, Anwar, is that organizations are not prepared, and they haven't exercised against it. They haven't brought their incident management procedures up to be able to cover these types of ransomware attacks. And it's a very, very stressful event for an organization, because it's actually a real-time cyber attack. And by real time, I mean we are actually negotiating with a criminal gang, and it's very new for an organization. If you're some manufacturing company in Malaysia, and all of a sudden you're thrown into an event where you're negotiating with a foreign entity for ransom for your data. It's so we need to really think about how we can improve our processes and procedures and our triage of when it does happen.
Yeah, and I mean, the scary thing is when you have your operations all over the global, I mean, let's say like Japanese manufacturing, Panasonic, Toshiba, and all the big ones there, the risks are definitely there. Dato' Sam, if I can come more to you, please, okay? If you could share with us, okay, how your career, okay, and your responsibilities have evolved. I mean, from the ship side, now coming over to cybersecurity. If you could share with us your career move and what respective responsibilities there are now within BSEP that you could care for, you know, to share in the knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Anwar.
Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Special thanks to the organizer for this opportunity, great opportunity actually, to be able to speak alongside subject matter experts, very experienced and prominent speakers, Dr. Hussein Jazri and also Mr. Cotton. This is a real big hot topic of the era. Cyber attack, cyber security, ransomware. But before that, to all attendees, I believe most of you must be a follower of this kind of discussion, seminar, webinar, whatever we call it. Congratulations for always keeping yourself abreast with what is happening around us. To be able to be involved in this kind of knowledge sharing sessions. Mr. Anwar, when we talk about career progressions, being trained in the professional military or naval career through the late 80s, I'm not that young though, trained in the late 80s, and given experiences to serve the ships throughout the 1990s era, able to play with modern technology and tools on board the warships, was actually a great time for me to see how the information technology evolved. And later from that information technology, it came out to be actually information warfare, where technology has become or has an impact on the situational awareness, how we share information, how we share the threats, where is it coming from, and how we share how the threat could cause damages to us, and later how information technology is used for countermeasures. Later, when you started to be exposed with levels of global strategic issues and also colorful technology advancements, both from military and also commercial world, you realize that greater information technology has become another type of warfare that you really need to prepare your forces to face the challenges or to prepare your organization to face those. Today, when security issues has become a major concern in the cyber world, or now we call it cyber warfare, as mentioned by Dr. Hussein just now, we need to really look into this and to talk about it. The organization like ours, which always talk about sovereignty as our core business, cyber warfare now has become another domain that we armed forces really need to address it fully, because this domain actually determines how you plan, mobilize, operate, defending, and protect your forces in order for you to maintain and actually to achieve your mission. Right. Mr. Moderator, we are here today to talk about the rise of ransomware, a modern security issues which is borderless, that attract attentions because it fits to the cyber warfare because of the nature of these operations without borders. And we also see how we, mankind, couple with software and hardware to operate together to achieve the missions, whether as a good guy or as a bad guys or bad actors. Believe me, this is going to be very interesting stuff for us to talk until we see in the future how mankind will see another era or domain that probably will offer us another greater heights, better than what is in front of us today. Over to you back, Mr. Anwar.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. I guess as we take it from the evolution of information technology to information warfare, I would like to bring this across to Dato' Professor Hussein, sir. This is your area that you've been working on for the last 20, 25, 30 years. If you could please comment, what are your thoughts of how the evolution from information technology to information warfare, and now, of course, coming to the specifics of cybersecurity and ransomware. Your thoughts, Professor?
Thank you for the question. The evolution of technology and into the current state is inevitable. it is the evolution of technology is parallel to the evolution of civilization and the age of this world. So I think those nature has to be accepted as is. But what's concerned me at the moment is that the medium that is supposed to do good to the mankind can be used as well as a double-edged sword to destroy and to destruct civilization if we are not able to handle it well, if we are not able to manage it properly. So the context of the concerns that I have at this moment is that the good of the digital revolution and the internet technologies is known. I don't think we should discuss about that in this forum. But my concerns now is how do we manage the risks, the bad side, because the scales and the escalation of the opportunities for the bad actors, as the Rear Admiral said it, is scary.
Yeah.
In the sense that it envelops not just at the individual level, it affects not just at the individual level, like the scams, financial crimes, to the individual level, the love scam, all those Macau scams and whatnot. But it goes into the organizational level, such as Lockbit, the ransomware, the latest Lockbit 2.0. They used to have Lockbit 1.0 ransomware. Now they have Lockbit 2.0 ransomware. Meaning, if you compare this in the physical world, you have missiles that you have established. Then this missile has become a missile upgraded 2.0.
Yeah.
That means the bullets that coming to you is also upgraded based on the escalation and the intensity of the technology that we are having in front of us. So this is my concern. So the issue here is now, how do we handle this? Because if we let it flow as is,
yeah.
I think as the nature of the world says, when the world and the universe become imbalanced, the destruction will come. So I think this does not. This also applies to the internet space. So if the balance are not there between the bad actors and the good actors, in the sense that the bad actors overhand the good actors, the destructions of the medium, the destruction of the civilization would happen. So come back to the ransomware. How do we address? Ransomware is a very beautiful subject to be discussed because it talks about a lot of things. It talks about defenses, it talks about offenses, it talks about warfare at the national level, at the international level, at the national security level, as well as at the enterprises level, as well as individual level. So all are affected by this intelligent weapon. If you want to call, now is the AI of the era of smartness or AI, I would say ransomware is an AI by right. It is an AI trying to look to find ways to attack ourselves. So I guess, how do we address this issue? It comes back to 4 areas. In short, before I give to the other moderators. The first one is the regulatory environment that need to be relooked. This includes a preemptive law that's going to reach out to the attacker of the ransomware, cross-border, wherever they are, at the speeds. This is required. Second is the people factor. The people that doing the defense has to be equipped, has to be made aware of the risks that's coming. The third is the process, which has to be improved. And the last but not least, of course, the talk about the most is the technology part. The technology must be good enough to sustain and to fill up the gaps of the human failures and human weaknesses. So until and unless we really shape our environment to these 4 elements, I think we are bound to be a hit again and again and again. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I guess we are totally in sync there on the concept of the people, process, technology, and added on the extra dimension of regulatory. Carton, if I could bring it over to you. I believe that, you know, with Nihon presence in Japan as well as within the region, you have seen an increase in ransomware attacks, in cybersecurity incidents. What basically drives this? You know, I mean, is there any particular incidents that are happening, any cases that are going on? Is it because there are more hackers now, like what Colonel Professor Hussein mentioned? What basically is going on here?
Yeah, so ransomware is commoditized cyber attacks.
Yeah.
It means it's taken the sophistication that we would have seen possibly with nation state cyber attacks in the past, and they've commoditized it. So RAS, ransomware as a service, it's basically criminal gangs or very sophisticated criminal gangs developing very, very sophisticated tools for ransomware attacks and selling them to third parties. Mm-hmm. So it means that organized cyber groups in, let's say, Nigeria can buy very sophisticated tools for running cyber attacks. That's what's driving it. It's that commoditization of it, the ability to offer these services to other gangs around the world. And basically that's what has driven this huge explosion in this area. And of course, behind it all is organizations paying the ransoms. If we all decided that we weren't going to pay the ransoms, it would severely limit those groups. But of course, we're paying the ransoms, and for every ransom that we see paid in the public domain on the news, you can be sure that there is a huge number that aren't in the public domain that are being paid by unfortunate victims in this area. So that's really what's driving it. And the bottom line is, Anwar, it's money. Yeah. It's a money making. It's a cross-jurisdictional money making machine. You know, so for example, if I wanted to rob a bank, I have to buy a gun, and I'm in physical danger robbing that bank in terms of being shot myself or arrested and put in jail. Well, you can imagine this crime of ransomware can happen from very thousands of miles away in a jurisdiction that won't extradite me, and I don't have any legal system that's going to come after me in that sense. And that's really, it is a global, I heard someone from the National Cybersecurity Centre in the UK recently quoted as a ransomware pandemic. And that's what we're seeing. And I think we will see a huge more, and it will mutate as we've seen. It's now gone from from the locking of data. It's now moved into what we call a double extortion. So it's not just the data that they're encrypting, they're also extorting ransoms from publishing the data. So this will mutate and mutate and mutate, and it will grow in this ransomware as long as people are prepared to pay.
Okay, I have a spin-off question on that, which is relating to cryptocurrencies. Do you think that the rise of cryptocurrency has got something to do with this rise of ransomware as well?
Of course it has. Of course it has, because we could now quite easily pay criminal groups with cryptocurrency. Yeah. If we had to carry briefcases of US dollars to other countries, it would be a whole lot different. But cryptocurrency has had a huge effect on it, and is often used, obviously, in the escalation of these criminal gangs being able to be paid remotely.
So I guess that will be one subject that maybe we'll have to pick up with the organizer for our next talk.
Yeah, cryptocurrency changes the world we live in. Changes the world we live in.
Colonel, this is a slightly more technical question. If you could look into that. I believe we all dread, I mean, that will be the last thing you want to see, that red message on your screen, your data has been encrypted. Okay. Now the question will be, how do we identify that there are malwares lurking in our system? So if possible, Colonel, I would like to have you and Captain, and kalau boleh Dato' Sam juga. Now, what measures are being taken, or what measures should be taken for us to identify that there are these malware lurking in our system, and how do we stop this? Colonel, if I can start with you, sir.
Okay, thank you for the question. Again, as I said to you, of course, there are technology out there, many technology solutions that claims themselves to be able to do endpoint protection and 24/7 security operations services. But what it means here is that when we talk about ransomware as the art of war, it means that you know that you got hit whenever you got hit.
Yeah.
And when the enemy is already bypassing all those defenses that you have, and you just got hit from your weakest link. And the weakest link can come from not those endpoint systems that you have put there, but the weakest link can come from as simple as the employee who uses multiple equipments, mobile phones and remote access, and going and accessing those data that you have stored in the servers. So you are not talking about just a fixed firewalls and endpoint protection here. You're talking about a dynamic one, a human being who can share their password with someone else, who can just click the attachment which not supposed to be clicked.
Yeah.
And all these are I can say the one of those 114 fronts, if you're talking from the enterprise perspective, that has been provided by the ISO 27001. That are the kind of defenses that you have to look out, and it increases costs.
Yes.
The problem here is that increasing your defense is increasing your cost and hitting your bottom line. So let's say if you are the CEO of a company, now you have an inverse relation to manage here. On one side, you have a board and an investor and shareholders who want to maximize profit. On the other hand, you have this threat that's coming that you got to invest and purchase skills and solutions and a lot more, which is not cheap, and it's getting more and more expensive. I'm surprised. Previously, when I was 15 years ago, somebody said to me, if we have a security operations center, you can soundly sleep all night because your system is guarded 24/7 by the security operations center. Now, even with security operations center, endpoint protection, whatever solutions that you have on the ground, you still do not have a good night's sleep because you do not know whether tomorrow you're going to hit by this ransomware. Why? Because now it is not just about technology. It is the art of war. How this enemy, the bad actors, are reaching to you with financial motivation, as mentioned by Mr. Carter just now, that financial motivation drives and leads organized international crimes to hit on a specific target. We heard Accenture is being hit. Accenture is an international company, is a consulting company who consult people how to do things correctly. They got hit. I mean, if the gurus of the gurus got hit, where do I stand in terms of this war? So this is a continuous war, and as I said, the strategy is multifold at every level. From the citizen level, individual level, we have to educate them, prepare them for the protection and prevention. At the enterprise level, we have to do what we have to do. At the national level, at the defense level, at the enforcement level, we have not even talked about crime pursuance. Now, IGP talks about ransomware. My question now is, how do you pursue them? These criminals. How do you pursue them within the context of Malaysian law? Can we? Can we not? So these are complex issues that we cannot just take it lightly, and it has to have some dimensions of seriousness on the part of the government of the day to mobilize and to look into this strategy properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. That's a lot there. Let me just bring the focus a little bit now to the art of war. Datuk Sam, if you could share with us, I think there are also a lot of questions there about the preparedness. What are the broad strategies, or are there any specific measures that are being taken by the Malaysian government, by yourself, sir, to mitigate these cyber threats? We are not just talking about ransomware specifically, but overall, as what Professor Hussein mentioned just now, there are big issues. Now, looking at the area of within your context, sir, what measures are you taking? What strategies do you have, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Anwar. The real facts that we are supposed to deal with now is the what we call yesterday's technology versus tomorrow's technology. So when we talk about yesterday's technology, I mean to say that can we always afford to have today's technology to entertain tomorrow's technology? So defense, like also commercial and other institutions, in order for us to spend, we need to go through lots of justifications. So that's not alone to be the measures for you to entertain those challenges. What is important now is in entertaining tomorrow's technology, you need to really have a strategy. As mentioned by Dr. Jasri just now, what Sun Tzu has said in his Art of War from many centuries ago, in order to know your enemy, you have to make yourself as your own enemy. Because you and me have a belief that you yourself can be an enemy to your organizations. First is the people. The threats, the simple strategy by your enemy is to use who is in your organizations. I mean to say you yourself is included. So in order to overcome those, firstly is the training, the awareness, the best practice within the organizations. This is very important measures. This is a basic things that you need to do within the organizations. You imagine how, I mean, we learned that how the huge company, the pipeline industries company in the US many months ago suffered the password compromised. No. Nobody has imagined a company in the higher end, high-tech technology has their password compromised. Even though there is no outcome of the investigation, whether it was compromised through the people, through the system or what, but still, compromise must come from inside. So this is the number one. You need to put the awareness of your people. Secondly, in the strategy is, you need to know that the technology that you are using is also always vulnerable to the advancements of other technology utilized by your adversaries. Out there, you see, I mean, you see during this pandemic how hospitals in Thailand suffered the data loss, and it created chaos when they were advised, patients, people were advised to have their own hard copy in order for them to get treatment in hospitals. So the real strategy now is to have a structure. You must know your network. You must know how good is your network and how to improve those networks and to have a data lake at the same time. Because as mentioned by Dr. Jazri, this warfare is a continuous warfare. That's why we call it information technology, we call it cyber security issues, we call it cyber warfare. And this applies across in all industries, commercials, offshore, defense. I mean, I cannot imagine how the full modern ships operating at sea been hijacked through their internet services, through their satellite services. I mean, the ship is planned to move from point A to point B, but ending up going through point C first before coming back through point B, and how the disastrous would be if the point C that they're going through, because of the hijack through satellites, will put them to the danger waters. Correct. So we have to imagine how that catastrophe is going to be. So the next strategy probably is, as I mentioned before, even though people are talking about, they're still debating whether to have a backup within your systems. Sometimes people are saying that backup is not or irrelevant at this point of time because of the state of art of technology that we have these days. But still, you need to have a belief that the data lake, the big data issues is to be strengthened within your organizations. That actually will help you to move forward. And if you can't afford to have the best technology of the day, you probably will have to strengthen the network through whatever means that you have. Then the lastly, probably do not depend too much on other people. I mean, for us in Malaysia, we have been using systems, software, hardware from foreign OEMs. It's time now for us, using whole of government approach, to have our own indigenous product. This is time for us now to use all the experts that we have, to use all the professors that we have in the universities, the experts that we have in the agencies, to work together, to look what will be the best system, what will be the best approach for us to have our own. We can no longer afford to have to live in a house built by other people, the fencing also built by other people, the key also built by other people, and you're living inside happily without realizing that those things that built by other people is actually a threat to you. I think that's all for this round, Mr. Anu.
Sure, thank you, Dato'. I guess the issue of national sovereignty has been brought up. Now, I would like to explore that a little bit further. How much development are we capable of doing? You know, I mean, comparatively to a small country like Malaysia, or should we be looking into processes? I am one of those people that I believe, yes, when we talk about cybersecurity, it's about people, process, and technology. But unfortunately, we always take the process part not so seriously. Colonel, Professor Hussain, if you care to elaborate on that, to me, I would rather say that, you know, we need to look into this process part. Yes, the people are at the bottom, people are foundation, fundamental, but we tend to take the processes sort of for granted. Your comments on this, Professor?
Thank you, Mr. Anwar. I think you have rightly said, I think people overlook the processes. It's not just people overlook it. I think at all levels we overlook it. At individual level, at enterprise level, organizational level, companies level, as well as at the governmental level and policy level as well. We always assume the process is going to work as predicted and as is. So how do we address ransomware through improvement of the processes? There are many factors that we have to put into account. The first is that, as I said, influencing the regulatory environment that influences the processes. So, for instance, at the moment, all cybersecurity incidences are not obliged to be reported by any company to the regulatory bodies, even though they are critical infrastructure company. There is an administrative instruction, yes, it is not by law. So in other words, a process that is more transparent, accountability to the stakeholders and also the regulators, for the sake of the safety of the has to be demonstrated, even at the human level, at the public level. When there are cyber crimes happening, people report the crimes. Okay, Cybersecurity Malaysia says to the whole country, any problem, report to us. My question now is, what is the processes there? When people report to you, what do you do about it? And what is the end process? How many cases solved? How many cases are not solved? How many cases are internally declared solved, but actually it is not solved? Not known. So to me, a processes has to be the genuine process that's having a genuine interest to and transparently to solve the problem. Right. So we need to be transparent and honest to ourselves. So whether it is at individual level, organizational level, or even at the defense level. For instance, at the defense level, the way I see it, the entire defense force, if you mobilize them, they cannot guarantee they can win this war. This is an asymmetrical war, as mentioned by one of the Q&A. I mean, you do not have to equate one battalion against one battalion, 20,000 people against 20,000 people, or certain firepowers physically to the other. No, this is a battle or a war, the art of intelligence, the ability to use skills and technology and blend it together with the art of war. So perhaps we need to reconsider, how do we mobilize national resources using the military arms? We have before deployed Askar Watania, the territorial army, to defend the borders, because military cannot overstretch. They need the support from the society to reinforce. Now the question now is, maybe something that Rear Admiral will have to think in the future now, if there is a real cyber war, what is the reinforcement strategy that we need to have besides just the deployment of the full-time military personnel? So what is the regulatory power to tweak to allow this to happen? So all this has to be thought through, because this cyber warfare or even ransomware, this is a battle of heart and mind. It's not just the battle of the medium. So it has a different dimension to the entire threats. It can escalate quickly from individual to criminals, or even to the national security, with the same tool, with the same techniques, with the same skill set, and without having too much numbers, with the support of AIs, with the support of the machine learning. Attackers doesn't have to have one battalion to attack.
Dr. Sam, you are smiling, sir.
So this is the dilemma. This is the challenge that we are facing.
Dr. Sam, so how do we respond to this?
Mr. Anwar, Dr. Hussein Jazri is always very critical on this. I've been speaking outside Dr. Jazri in a few forums, and I'm glad that whatever he is posted in the forum is actually a challenge for me. Okay. Not only a challenge, but actually giving me ideas, giving me appetite to move forward in this domain. I'm glad to share that at the national level, our National Security Council, MKN, through NACSA, is actually doing a good job in mobilizing all agencies across all ministries to be together. Sure. I mean, last year they have launched a policy that I believe will take us together on the same path. Sure. And the corporations between the agencies, which involve also GLCs, to be together is also a great move. Sure. And we in defense, as mentioned by Dr. Hussein, need to look into this to have a clear policy. It was actually stipulated in the defense white paper, which we have launched a year ago. And from that white paper, actually is a driving factors for the defense to establish these defense cyber and automotive divisions. And we have been talking to GLCs which already have battalions or probably a reserve units, which Dr. Hussein mentioned about Watania just now. Okay, that GLCs is actually working with us, and we are actually using same techniques, same tools, which is also using by the National Security Council at the national level. And it won't stop there. Will not stop there, because we have just started, and this journey will be a very interesting one. And I don't see challenges. It's a hurdle. I see challenges is a push factor for us to work harder. I mean, it is not that easy to make people across all agencies to work together. But the moment you can blend them together, which single understanding, which are single missions to understand what is the real threat of the day, as we have discussed before, then I think we'll get into it. It will come to a simple solution, a simple formula that we need to be together. We need to use the same techniques. We need to beef up the same tools, probably using the same instruments. It can be many areas of technologies and software or hardware, whatever we call it, but with the aim to have the skill sets that will help us to be better.
Yeah.
In defense, we are glad to share that all the armed services are now strengthening the cyber departments because like any other defense organizations, we are connected by or through technology, and those technology need to be protected in order for us to operate in a secure environments.
Sure.
And to be living in secure environments is not an insurance for you to be relaxing all the time, because insurance need to be renewed. Okay, how do you renew your insurance within your secure environments? Is to learn and relearn. Learn and relearn is a magic touch for you to improve, whether improve your human capitals, or to have what is latest in the current technology. I think I stop here.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to add on to that. I think when it comes to defense measures, if let's say now maritime, you can see the ships in the ocean or space or land. But when it comes to cyberspace, this is something that is man-created. We can't see. I mean, does anybody here can tell me realistically what is our cyberspace size, or what even that means? Okay, so the question will be, what do we need to protect? What assets are under the government? What assets are individual? And what assets are under the so-called critical national information infrastructure agencies like Tenaga Nasional, Petronas, so on and so forth. I would like to get some of the questions. There are a lot of questions here. So I guess if it's okay, I would like to pick the first question would be from Amy Chiu from South China Morning Post. Okay, let's throw it up in general. Yeah, how is ransomware offered as a service? Okay, how does the cyber criminals choose their target? Let's start with this. Maybe Katan, with your background from the financial sector and as a solution provider, you could address this. How is ransomware offered as a service, and how does the criminals know who to target? Is there, I mean, are they really targeting it, or is just a random act?
So first of all, to answer the first question, it is ransomware as a service is technology that's been built by one particular group and then sold to others through dark web forums or the dark web. That's how that technology is passed and advertised on the dark web. So first of all, that's how they disseminate that technology among the different hacking groups around the world. Then in terms of victims that they're looking at, and it goes back to some of the other discussions that we had before, is that they will look at the organizations. For example, if you were looking at Japan, they're not going to pick a Japanese company that they haven't heard of. They're going to look at a Japanese organization probably that has overseas operations, because generally the weakest point of any organization is its overseas branches.
Yeah.
So that's really how they would target, and they would look for wealthy companies, obviously, as well. They will not pick victims that can't pay the ransom. So really, it is a financial one that they look at organizations and they do get this technology. So you just mentioned some organizations in Malaysia just a second ago. So obviously you can think of the top companies in Malaysia that would be probable targets. I mean, even if as I say, I worked in Malaysia before, and I could think of someone, Maybank, for example, or Petronas, or some of these groups would obviously be huge targets. So that's what they're doing. But this is how sophisticated they are, the ransomware groups. They have actually hacked into insurance companies around the world and stolen the cyber insurance policies from those insurance companies, so they know when they attack a particular organization that they have cyber insurance that will pay a $1 million ransom. And there have been cases, Anwar, where a company has said, look, unfortunately, we don't have the money to pay you. And the ransomware group has sent them a copy of their cyber insurance policy and said, no, actually, we know exactly how much you can pay us. So that it's that level of sophistication. When you're looking at tens of millions of dollars of revenue being generated for these criminal gangs, that's how sophisticated they become and been able to analyze their victims.
I guess the key thing is this: while the hackers or the cyber criminals know what they are looking for, I guess the concern here would be on the victims. You know, like take for example the issue of Central Bank of Bangladesh when they were compromised. If not for the clerk that noticed the spelling error, probably $1 billion US would have been transferred. So we are always going to be at the back end of these attacks. And I think this is what Dato' Sam, you mentioned just now. We will always be behind in terms of lacking of technology, yesterday's technology, what we have, and against tomorrow's technology, what the hackers have. Now, what should the measures be here? Like, you know, to me, being in cybersecurity Malaysia, one of the biggest headaches has always been the procurement exercises. Dato' Sam, maybe you want to comment on that. What are your measures looking into so that you can get tomorrow's technology today?
Tough questions. Very tough questions, Mr. Anwar. But again, within the policy that you have within your ministry or whatever policies imposed upon you by Treasury, maybe there is still a flexibility within it.
All right.
You need to be creative, and you need to be brave enough to come forward and justify your case.
Right.
If you see that the processes or the bureaucracy as a hurdle for you not to move forward, then you are never moving forward.
Right.
I mean, what we are doing here in defense is to look at the policy and the process as an opportunity for us to do things which sometimes beyond our imaginations. Because from the processes that we have in our defense environments, there are room for us to move. There are room for us, I'm not saying to manipulate, sure, but to be creative, to justify to your bosses, to justify to the higher agencies that this can be done to acquire what is latest in the technology, today's technology. Yeah. Because you are given all the soft skill, the hard skill that you have learned from the day one you joined the services. You have been trained in sort of hard environments. So if you see these challenges is things which stop you to do everything for the organizations, then you better surrender your uniforms. So being trained as a military professional, I think we have do our best with the help of the officers in MINDEF working for defense. I mean, they are very helpful enough to understand what do we really need. Because in defense today, what do we really need is, firstly, is to connect.
Yeah.
as I said before, we need to connect everybody in defense. Also connect us to outside the defense environments. After we connect, then we need to protect. After we protect, we need to control this in order to win. To win is to achieve the missions.
Right.
So I think processes is not a hurdle actually. Processes is for you to enjoy, for you to chew, for you to make it to your advantage. And what we have done thus far through those difficult processes actually very fruitful, because from those processes, when we table it on the discussions, we actually are taking advantage to make them understand what have not been spelled out before. Because by doing that, you are actually educating yourself,
Correct.
educating your people,
Right.
and also educating those people who are working with you, not working for you, working with you. So that actually the secrets of how we at defense now crawling and later to be running parallel as fast as what is happening in the cyber domain.
Understand. I guess the key thing here will be having the rightful awareness and being respectful of the processes. And it's not about the processes being a hurdle or slowing it down, but it is more of being respectful that the processes are built in place to get things done in a more structured manner. Okay, gentlemen.
That is solid, very solid, Mr. Anwar. Very solid from you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One question before we take a break. Now, some companies are paying up. Okay, they have no choice; they pay. What are your thoughts, Carlton? I mean, since I guess have you come across instances where the organizations that you are dealing with that they have no choice, but it's like we have to pay up?
So yes, they do have. There are some organizations that don't have any choice, and especially those organizations that recover backups and then find that when they've recovered the backups, that the data they recovered is also encrypted or can be re-encrypted by the ransomware gang as well. But really, one of the key things is that you have to, as a board of a company or the organization that has been attacked, it's all about asking the right questions from your incident management team to make that qualified decision about whether to pay or not. And it's one thing that we've had to do in Japan is actually educate organizations on what a ransomware attack and the processes that you need to go through ultimately to make that decision, pay or not pay. And it's things like the technical understanding, how did the incident happen, and the mitigation, the attribution and the investigation, the legal side. All of these things will help the board of a company, and it is a board of a company. It's not just the CISO, it's the entire board of a company. Do we pay or not pay? And that's unfortunately, that's the $1 million or $10 million question. And yes, unfortunately, organizations are forced to pay. But there is a process. Yeah. There is a process to triage an event like this, to make that very qualified decision. And that's what I think that Cyber Malaysia or the organizations in Malaysia at a national level need to be educating the corporate side of Malaysia. Because it's all right for me talking from Japan as an expert from whatever, although we do have an office in Malaysia, but it's really you need to make those informed decisions as an organization yourself. The experts from overseas or wherever, they can only give you a certain amount. You need to qualify that. What should I do? And there is a set of questions that you can go through, Anwar, to make that decision.
Carlton, I don't think you are in Japan and there is any difference. We are all in this thing together. Yeah. Professor Hussain, sir, what are your thoughts? I mean, when it comes to organizations or companies that are held ransom, should they pay? Or I mean, it's what measures would you recommend to them, sir? Mute.
Let me unmute. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. So to me, the default situation is don't pay. You should not start with wanting to pay. the default situation is you should not pay.
Sure.
Because even if you pay, there is a risk of paying and not getting what you expect from it. So the risk is higher even if you pay. So start with not to pay. But if you need to pay, then I think as Carlton said, it has to be consulted to the management, and not just management but also the board. But the challenge is this: usually when there is a ransomware, they give you only 48 hours to respond. So 48 hours is not enough in terms of consulting the board to a decision. It's impossible. So the decision will have to be left to the CEO to be made in consultation with the board in whatever manner, but not in a formal board setting as it should be. It should be only from the, because it has an element of speed. Yeah. You want to pay or you not to pay, you have 24 hours or 48 hours. So the best bet to me is invest on the backups. So there are three types of data. Actually, ransomware is attacking data, not the firewall, not the program. So it's hitting the data. So let's protect the target, which is the data. So what do we do here? There are three options. Yeah. So we should not put the whole data into one basket. So the data has to be divided into three baskets. What are the three baskets? The first basket is the data has to be stored on premise. That's one. Okay. The second, the data has to be stored in the cloud, because we have the cloud. So data to be stored in the cloud, data to be stored on premise, and one more is for you to distribute it the way your organization behaves. So it is a distributed storage strategy. So not everybody is having the full data access to every data to be stored. So you distribute it within the organizational, geographical, and topology that you have. So you have this mix of the three, and no one solution fits all. So you look into your solution there, because they are, for example, if you put the data on AWS or the cloud. So for example, let me put here one of the clouds, AWS, for instance. There are service providers who provides encryption to enhance the privacy of the data, so that when it is put in the cloud, whoever that is in the cloud should not be able to read those data. You can look for this kind of services as well, on top of the data protection that you have. So there are technological means to do it, but the challenge is these technological means are troublesome, cumbersome, and money intensive. Yeah. So this is always the challenge that we have. And then the CEO has to make this hardcore, within to invest or not to invest. So when the ransomware hit, it's too late. Then you can cry as long as you want. Yeah. But in Malay proverb it says nasi telah menjadi bubur, or what we call it in English, I translate, the rice has become porridge. Yeah. So nothing much you can do about the rice anymore. So these are the hard decisions which need to be put to the board. This is what I'm saying. In the process part, the board has to take ownership of the data protection. So under the board, there is a subcommittee called the risk committee. Okay, for now, the risk committee of the board in the public listed company or even in the non-public listed company are only looking into financial risks. Yes. But I think this is time to look into both financial risks and technological risks together. And there must be a process to audit this. Board cannot just rely on a CEO saying everything is fine. Yeah, our IT system is protected, it's fine. I have employed the best CISO in town, should be fine. It doesn't work that way. So it has to be audited. It has to be, as much as you do not want to trust a chief financial officer stating their financial status without being audited, you have to put the same standard to the technological issues, so that there is a proper validation process to tell the board that the technological risks in the company has been taken care of. And it applies the same to even the governmental institution or even and across the board. I think this discipline need to exist in order for us to win this war,
Correct.
the war of ransomware. So, and last but not least, we have to make sure that all those incidences that happen not to be swept under the carpet. It has to be made accountable. It has to be reported to the board. It has to be, and the regulators and the influencers, there are two, yeah? Regulators regulates, influencers like Kazana, they are not regulators. They are influencers. They provide investment. So both regulators and influencers has to insist on this formalization so that it's not just their financial risks are protected, but also technological risks, which can lead to make business bunkers also are taken care of. I think by doing this as a start, we are in the right footing. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think if we look at what in terms of guidelines available now, and the Security Commission, the cyber risk guidelines are already there. What are the responsibilities for the board of directors and the senior management, plus the incidents reporting as well? So that is already being taken care of.
Anwar, wait a second. If you look into Securities Commission Information Risk Guideline, it was published in 2015 or 2005.
2016.
It was not revised. So it was not revised. So to me, everybody has to be put on toe, not just the companies, but also the regulators. They have to revise those instructions.
Betul, Prof. The only thing is, these are guidelines. These are not enforced.
It has to be enforced.
Exactly. So, gentlemen, with that, we need to take 3 minutes break because the organizer wants to do some polling. Let's take a 3 minutes biological break. Maybe, you know, if you need to go get some coffee or tea or to the bathroom, we will come back in 3 minutes time. Azrul, are you managing it? Okay, great. So we'll be back in 3 minutes time. Hold on, yeah?
This is the Petaling Jaya of today. The one you've always known. But the city you know is about to be transformed. And not just transformed, but revolutionized. Who's leading this bold new journey into tomorrow? None other than Celcom. We're advancing Petaling Jaya into a visionary era of seamless connectivity.
Something very exciting, which is going to change the way we live, the way we work. At Celcom, we are all about advancing our societies.
Our 5G journey will begin in Petaling Jaya, but will soon be advancing the lives of all Malaysians nationwide. Indeed, the Celcom 5G revolution will redefine not just the ways we communicate, but the ways we keep our homes and loved ones safe, the ways we travel, the ways we shop, the ways we entertain ourselves, and even the ways we teach our future generations. This vision of the future is not unattainable. At Celcom, we're paving the way for it right now. Join us as we journey together into the exciting 5G world of tomorrow.
Are we in? Okay, polling time. Question 1. Have you or any of your acquaintances being exposed to ransomware attack? 68% no. Are you guys using the internet or not? Okay. And then the second question, if you are being attacked by ransomware, do you know what to do? Yes and no. Okay, I guess this is a good one. Let's continue our session here. Okay, and looking at that two questions, Colonel, would you want to comment first? It seems like people still don't have the awareness on ransomware.
Yeah, I think on the first question, whether they have they receive it or not, I think not all participants are privy to the information. Some of the ransomware that happens in the company are kept secret, well kept secret. So it is within the CISO and the circle few in the country. So I'm not surprised with those answers. But if you look into the statistic by Sophos Ransomware 2021 survey, it talks about 41% of the companies in Malaysia admitted to have one way or another ransomware attacked, and another 57 to 60% feel that they're going to be hit soon. So I think that's a strong enough resonance to say that the problem is serious. And on the second question, Paul, is they do not know what to do with the ransomware. In fact, many even technical people do not know what to do. When your data has been encrypted, there are only two ways to solve it. Either you find a good software guy, system guy, to analyze the code, and also the code breakers to break the code. And the code breakers to break the codes needs computing power. And then that is also another issue. So yes, it is a difficult problem to solve. Then can you solve it? The answer is we may try, but we cannot guarantee that we can solve it immediately. It takes time. Of course, you can come to me, I will try to solve it, but I cannot say you're guaranteed. But what I can say is I will try my best to save what is left from what happened. That is the best answer I can give, the best promise I can give.
Thank you. Dato' Sam, now within your organizations, Dato', what would you think will be the awareness on ransomware? Are they aware that they have been attacked or not attacked? And second part, exactly as that question, would they know what to do? What is your general feeling about this, Dato'?
You know, within any organizations, firstly, you need to have a crisis team. Because facing this cyber, or whatever you call it, virtual terrorism, if we may call it these days, you need to have a setup of good people. I mean, a team to face the crisis. I'm for one who always look into the success story of any incidents. I mean, one of the best success stories that we can learn is from the US black box company, who managed to convince the hackers, convince their customers of their ability to restore whatever have been compromised by the hackers. So back at defense, we are actually building up a team to handle this kind of situations. Awareness is one of the key things, as mentioned by Dr. Jazri, because you may have the best solutions, you may have the best technology in front of you, but if you don't have awareness, if you don't educate your own people that all those best technology that you have is useless.
It's 12 hours.
So what we do here is to have a team across all the services, let it be in the Navy, in the Army, and the Air Force, or at joint environments. We have experienced this months ago, where smart people, which they call themselves a cyber warrior, trying to harm another country because issues, global issues that we have witnessed today. But the impacts or the retaliations by the country that they have attacked is not on them, but on us. So thanks God, we are quite prepared. We manage. The team that we have established, built up thus far, capable to deal with that. And I'm very proud to say that we are improving from day to day, from time to time, to ensure that if you call it a sovereignty, if you call it our core business to protect the country, we have that. And we are learning from other organizations. We are learning from people like Dato' Hussein Jazri. We also learning from our friends in defense in these regions or in the arrangement like 5-power defense arrangements. We are learning from them how to improve not only the system, but also the people that we have. And we make sure that the education part is always happens continuously done so that we have people to take over those going to retire in years to come. I think these kinds of webinar, this kind of knowledge sharing actually is one of the instruments, one of the tools to help us to improve. I believe this kind of webinar and today's webinar is watched by many quarters in defense, in government institutions, and what we have been discussing today have points, have good values for us to take, good values for us to impart in the organizations, and probably will help us to come up with a clearer policies in many areas, let it be in financials, in educations, in making your policies and doctrines probably. So I'm glad that we are talking about it today. Apart from talking about ransomware, which is becoming a big issue in the commercial world, but we in defense are trying to relate those incidents into these organizations. So that is why the success stories from those experienced by companies, by organizations, actually is a things that we need to inculcate in our organizations. Over to you, Moderator.
Thank you, Dato'. I guess, coming to an end here, I would just like to touch a little bit on currently the American Vice President Kamala Harris is in Singapore, and part of the so-called bilateral agreements that they have signed is on cybersecurity. Excellent that, cybersecurity is given prominence at that high level. Now, with that, I would like to pass around, Katen, if you have any closing remarks.
Yeah, as I say, before, all the technology in the world, and it goes to what the professor said as well, is it cannot stop an adversary if they really want to get into your system. Really, what you're trying to do by strengthening your defenses is hope that they move on to someone else. Right. But you have to be prepared for when it does happen.
Sure.
And that will mitigate your exposure and your risk and the chances of it collapsing your organization.
Yeah.
So that's really my last point.
Thank you, Katen. Prof, anything from you?
Yes, I have two actually, two short ones. The first one is prevention is better than cure. Correct. So do whatever it takes to prevent it from happening, then to cure it, because cure it is already too late. It's losing. Second point, I'm calling, of course, I do not know who's the audience here, but I have the tendency to influence. And this is what I thought. I would like to, because General Real Admiral Sam has mentioned about terrorists, virtual terrorists. I'm inclined to declare ransomware guys, ransomware actors as technology terrorists, because they are in fact is acting like a terrorist. We have a religious terrorist. We go after them, even into the caves, to wherever in the world. We're so scared of religious terrorists, but I am so scared of technology terrorists. And I would like the government to take a look, not just Malaysian government, since Kamala Harris is also in there. Maybe it's time for you guys to discuss about these technology terrorists. No, when we classify cases as technology terrorists, we should go after them preemptively before they hit us. This is a very important international regulation that we need to consider. All right. Last but not least, I hope that the incident responses in Malaysia to be formalized and to be organized properly, because a sporadic attacks, ransomware, if you do an accumulative collections of it, it can become a national security threat. So you can see the trends, the patterns, the topology of it very clearly, whether it is individually, randomly initiated, or it is well organized. So I think with that, I think if we can do this, I think maybe our rank can move from number 5 to number 1 someday. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, hopefully nasi belum jadi bubur. Dato' Sam, how do we stop nasi daripada menjadi bubur ni? Any last points, sir?
Nasi is always a nasi. When you become a bubur, so it's still good for us to enjoy. Bubur lambu is always the best menu, especially in the fasting months. So don't worry so much, because we still have good people around us, like Dr. Hussein Jazri and Mr. Katan and Mr. Moderator yourself, who always put your thoughts together on how to convince leadership to have or to make what has been dreaming by Dr. Hussein will be a real things in the near future. I have a belief that the younger generations, a younger leadership at the government agencies now is seriously thinking about this. And with the helps from GLCs and other non-profitable company who are working with directly or indirectly with governments, inputs and values from what's happening around us is having an impact. Firstly, because with those NASA have come out with the policies.
Yeah.
So even though the policies is merely a policies, but inside that policies they have stipulated rules, regulations. Probably what have been proposed by Dr. Hussein Jassi just now can be another input to further improve those policies. Right. Because that policies is a living document. It probably applied now, and to be able to be applicable in future, it needs to be improved from time to time. So probably what is absent in the policy can be further improved with the input from subject matter experts that we have around us. So I think people in National Security Council, people in Cybersecurity Malaysia, and also with the advice from experts from universities that we have today in Malaysia, and we in defense is always ready to be with them, to be together as a team on how can we do things together, how can we emulate good values from others so that we have that similar strength to entertain what we call technology terrorism, as you call it, Dr. Hussein Jazri. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. Thank you, gentlemen. I wish we had a little bit more time. And in fact, I wish we were all physically together. It is unfortunate due to this pandemic, we are all, I guess this is not new normal anymore. This is the normal, having online seminars and webinars. Thank you again. And Alhamdulillah, Dr. Sam is assuring to know that there are good people there, looking after the country. And I always say my prayers to you, Dr. Prof. Every night, I'm grateful for bringing me into CSM, Cybersecurity Malaysia. And inshallah, I do hope that we can all meet one day with Katan, based in Tokyo now. And my sincere apologies. I think we have 77, 78 questions. I hope we have addressed some of it. Those that we have not addressed, my sincere apologies. We will try our best to answer later on. With that, thank you, gentlemen. I hand it over back to Aisha. Are you there, Azrul?
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our distinguished panelists, moderator, platinum sponsor, Telkom Axiata Berhad, co-sponsor Syntax Sdn Berhad, System Consultancy Services Sdn Berhad, and all of you who made the effort to attend today's session. You may click on the link as written on the chat box to reach our sponsors. I hope you have gained valuable tips and some insights from today's cyberspace defense and security fireside chat session. We would like to invite all of you to attend our second day cyberspace defense and security fireside chat session tomorrow, 25th August at 10:30. To register, please scan the QR code as shown on the screen if you haven't done so. We are also delighted to invite everyone to attend our CSR event, Kind Malaysia 2021 Virtual, 7 to 9 September 2021. This event is organized by Bumiati Holdings Sdn Berhad, DSA Exhibition and Conference Sdn Berhad, and Informal Markets Malaysia. This event is free and open to all. Participate and find out how you can connect with the NGOs and non-profit organizations to contribute to our community. You may scan the QR code as shown on the screen. And with that, I would like to end this session. Till then, stay safe and please take care.
This is the Petaling Jaya of today. The one you've always known. But the city you know is about to be transformed. And not just transformed, but revolutionized. Who's leading this bold new journey into tomorrow? None other than Celcom. We're advancing Petaling Jaya into a visionary era of seamless connectivity.
Something very exciting, which is going to change the way we live, the way we work. At Celcom, we are all about advancing our societies.
Our 5G journey will begin in Petaling Jaya, but will soon be advancing the lives of all Malaysians nationwide. Indeed, the Celcom 5G revolution will redefine not just the ways we communicate, but the ways we keep our homes and loved ones safe, the ways we travel, the ways we shop, the ways we entertain ourselves, and even the ways we teach our future generations. This vision of the future is not unattainable. At Celcom, we're paving the way for it right now. Join us as we journey together into the exciting 5G world of tomorrow.